to What We Did Next 10-year anniversary concert. Well, maybe most of you know me, but if you don't, my name is Jamie, and for much of What We Did Next history, I was the chairman before Zoe took over the reins. So, a little bit of history about What We Did Next before we kick off this evening. Back in summer of 2008, the group of us all sat down, not far from here, in the Everyman Bistro. We started discussions about how it might be interesting to continue performing musical theatre when we left university. And interesting has definitely been the word for it. We'd all realised that now we were gainfully employed, we couldn't dedicate quite as much time to producing shows, so our ethos was to fit around our schedules and yet still put on professional standard theatre. We didn't really know at that point where we would perform, or actually what we would perform, or whether anyone would bother coming to see the plays anyway. But it seems they did. Around the stage this evening, you can see evidence of our previous shows. It's like a really good game of, it's like a quiz really. If you can work out what these things came from, in particular, I think this barcode scanner over there is throwing a lot of people. They've all been in our shows before. And if there's one thing that we're good at in What We Did Next, it's reusing old pieces of setting props. Over the last 10 years, I think we've all had an incredible time. We performed to in excess of probably about 5,000 audience members. We put on too many performances to accurately count, and believe me, we tried. In 2010, we also started the choir, which provides a creative outlet year-round for our members, and What We Did Next singers are going to perform a trio of their favourite tunes for you later on. We've also done a load of other things as well. We did a play called Any Other Name, which was a piece of original writing. We did a Shakespeare performance at St George's Hall. We've sung in hospices. We've sung at weddings. We've sung at a funeral as well. We've workshopped a few scripts. We've done educational outreach in different schools. We've done loads of open mics as well, and we've done masses of socials. It's a lot to do. We're also very proud of our many members who've gone on to have professional musical theatre careers. Whilst you, the audience, see our performers in the concerts and shows, we mustn't forget the scores of talented people who helped us behind the scenes with sound and lighting, design, makeup, costume, set building, marketing. The list really does go on. And whilst most of us take part in What We Did Next for fun, a number of our members have used their work as part of their degrees and that professional training. Ultimately, the company's helped us develop strong and long-lasting friendships whilst doing something we love. Tonight, we're going to take you through what we achieved in What We Did Next. The committee have all helped produce this evening's entertainment for you, and what you're about to see, Ruth has carefully chosen the songs for, and it comes from each of the productions that we've done, not necessarily in chronological order, but they typify the style and the meaning and the content of those shows as well. So, shall we start off this evening with our very first show, Company. Woo! Yeah. I remember sitting down with everyone to come up with ideas for what our first show should be, and obviously this one did end up on the list. We settled on the play because it was very different from most other musicals. It doesn't have that normal narrative in it. It broadly contained the right amount of characters and the gender balance there for us as well, so that was quite useful. And we thought, well, it's Sondheim, it can't be that hard. It turns out Sondheim is really hard. But we had an excellent cast and crew, and we put on our inaugural production, and I'm very proud to have directed it. On the 28th of November 2018, not 2018, 2008. Okay, proofreading. On the 28th of November 2008, we had our first read-through of the script. So, we're nearly 10 years after that date now. The exact details of it are a little bit hazy though. That's why I can't totally remember. Partly due to the amount of time that's gone, partly due to the amount of homebrew wine that we drank that night. Didn't go well. But after the read-through, rehearsals got underway. And with Andy by my side producing, we set about the challenge of transforming the Casimir Club into a beautiful theatre space. We were able to do things that we could never do in any other theatre. For example, I'm pretty sure the guys at the Royal Court here wouldn't let us rewire the place, add extra consume units so that we can run the lights. I don't think they'd let us paint on the walls outside to evoke a New York skyline as well. If we could have, then But it also gave us one of our scariest moments when one of the cast dropped out 2 weeks before the show was due to open. So I shat myself. And luckily Cammy stepped in to save the day and also choreographed a song for us, which was great. So I'm delighted to introduce our first number tonight. AV, who played our original Bobby in Company, is singing the final number from the show, where the strands of the musical come together as he remembers the advice given to him by the good and crazy people in his life. Being alive.
You don't think I've looked into all that? Into marriage and all that? What do you get? Someone to hold you too close. Someone to hurt you too deep. Someone to sit in your chair and ruin your sleep.
That's true, but there's more to it than that.
Do you really think that's all there is?
You've got so many reasons for not being with somebody, but you've not got one good reason for being alone.
Come on, you're onto something, Bobby. You're onto something.
Someone to need you too much. Someone to know you too well. Someone to pull you up short and put you through hell.
See what you look for, you know.
You're not a kid anymore, Bobby. I don't think you'll be a kid again, kiddo.
Be worried about it not being perfect, just be worried that it won't be.
Don't stop now. Keep going.
Someone you have to let in. Someone whose feelings you spare. Someone you have to like it or not, or want you to share. A little, a lot.
But what does all that mean? Robert, how can you know so much about it when you've never even been there? It's much better living it than looking at it.
Add 'em up, Bobby. Add 'em up.
Someone to crowd you with love. Someone to force you to care. Someone to help you come through, who'll always be there, as frightened as you of being alive. Being alive. Being alive. Being alive.
Blow out the candles, Robert. Make a wish. Want something. Want something.
Somebody hold me too close. Somebody hurt me too deep. Somebody sit in my chair and ruin my sleep and make me aware of being alive. Being alive. Somebody needs me too much. Somebody know me too well. Somebody pull me up short and put me through hell and give me support. Being alive. Make me alive. Make me alive. Make me confused. Mock me with praise. Let me be you. Bury my days. 'Cause alone is alone, not alive. Somebody crowd me with love. Somebody force me to care. Somebody help me come through. I'll always be there, as frightened as you, to help us survive. Being alive. Being alive. Being alive. show that we're going to take a song from is I Love You, You're Perfect, Now Change. I Love You, You're Perfect, Now Change is my favourite music. It's a series of individual scenes or vignettes all linked together to the theme of love and relationships. Starting with a group of people getting ready for their first date, and moves through the different stages of dating: weddings, coping with kids, divorce, and even finding love in our golden years. It's a big topic, but the music handles it with great tenderness, insight and humour. There are also some genuinely moving songs and monologues. It is written as a straightforward musical on stage, but we decided to take it in a new direction. The idea for doing the show as a promenade piece came to me at 4 AM on a boat off the coast of Scotland, as all good ideas do. Jamie and I had talked a lot about wanting to put on a different type of show, something more immersive and offbeat. We discussed Wild Party, which I was very keen on directing, but it's a very difficult show, musically and theatrically. And although I have no doubt that we could do a great job with it, to throw in the extra chaos of a completely new setup for production would have been too much. And so it was that I found myself waking up at 4 AM with the inspiration to take I Love You, You're Perfect, Now Change, a very simple show, and a show I know very well, having performed it and directed it, and turned it into a promenade. I was kind enough to leave it to 5 AM before waking up the person next to me to tell them my excitement. The first major problem was finding a venue. This was to be key to shape the entire production. We looked at huge open spaces, small bars, churches, but nothing was either in budget or particularly suitable. However, luck was on our side when I was introduced to the charity Age Concern, who happened to have on the top floor of their offices two massive spaces they won't use, including an entire set of fake rooms, which was perfect. Absolutely godsend for our show. We took the idea of it being a love conference and had 3 actors being facilitators at various points to link the scenes. From the moment they arrived, the audience was signed into the conference and given a welcome talk by the main speaker. The audience was transported into an Italian restaurant, sat at tables to watch a few awkward first dates, then ushered into a cinema with fresh popcorn where the actors singing the song were projected onto the screen in front. The interval was a wedding breakfast for all before we were whisked out to various households to see life after marriage, before being taken back to the first room, now a funeral parlour for two last scenes. It was a huge undertaking. The production team did amazing things to realise my many, often very highly unrealistic ideas, and organised the entire thing. The actors were fantastic. Rehearsals were done in a very collaborative manner, often working in groups to develop ideas themselves within parameters I'd set, only for us to come back together to look at the ideas and polish or adapt what they'd come up with. Jonas, our M&D, just did an amazing job to getting us all to sound amazing. I absolutely loved the whole show process. It was one of my proudest achievements and will forever be grateful to what we did next and the people who listened to my idea, taking the risk of making it happen. This is the first song from the show, it's called Cantate for a First Date.
Brush the teeth, mousse the hair, Calvin Klein underwear, white guard, toothpaste,
Bring a condom just in case.
Listerine, take a swill,
Now, minoxidil.
I will splash on musk,
I will knot my tie.
and before I go, I will check my fly. If these women who have turned me into this are coiffed up a dry cleaned guy.
Facial cream from a spa, lingerie, on their bra, hairspray, hair spritz, wax the legs, shave the pits, act petite, coin purse, don't take much, no dessert, sweet love, half and half, try a lot, take a laugh. I have rubbed on there, I have spent 2 hours on my face and hair.
chased. I'm getting old. Hi!
Loads of you know I love a microphone. Strap in for the next hour and a half of me monologuing. The next section you're going to see is about is Carousel, which was my first show to direct. Your first show is always special. I've done a few, but the first one always holds a special place in your heart. Carousel is one of my favourite creative endeavours I've ever undertaken late in my professional life and at this level as well. There's a rumour or suggestion when we were sort of looking at it that there is this 2 pianos version of the show. And it turns out that Rodgers and Hammerstein had scaled down like a load of their shows, basically so they would fit in small venues all over America when they toured them. Not everyone has a hit with a full orchestra. But these guys are great. And it's safe to say that I hugely geeked out over this show. I read everything I could on it. I had articles upon articles, including a very depth PhD thesis on PTSD and the central character and what that meant. I really geeked out over it. It made me appreciate the genius of Rodgers and Hammerstein and how they shaped musical theatre as a whole, the thing that that we love. And then we found the 2 pianos version, and at that point I knew that I wanted 2 uprights in the centre of the stage and build it out from there. So it stripped back everything from like kind of movement and the set to everything else. A lot of stripped back sets in what we did next. Funding doesn't quite always cut it. And I wanted to make Carousel of What We Did Next show, give it an update, which is hard to do when you don't have control of the material, like your very recent Sondheim revival, where you just get to change everything in the music and all of it, but we don't necessarily have that luxury. It's also famous for its ballet segments, like a lot of R&H's, and I wanted contemporary dance throughout it. I wanted movement to be a huge focus of the show. Again, not our strong point as a compliment. Dominique, our choreographer at the time, just brought it to life, and I will never forget all of the lads being forced to do corner work every time. No exceptions. And it was truly a beautiful sight to behold. I am so proud of what we achieved with this show, and like I said, your first is always special. This is Soliloquy from that show.
I wonder what he'll think of me. Mom, sorry. Apologies. I wonder what he'll think of me. I guess he'll call me the old man. I guess he'll think I can lick every other fella's father. Well, I can. I bet that he'll turn out to be the spitting image of his dad. But he'll have more common sense than his pudding-headed father ever had. I'll teach him to wrestle and dive through a wave when we go in the mornings for a swim. His mother would teach him the ways to behave, but she won't make a sissy out of him. Not him. Not my boy. Not Bill. Bill. My boy Bill, I will see that he's named after me. as tough as a tree. Will he? Like a tree he'll grow, with his head held high and his feet planted firm on the ground. And you won't see nobody dare to try to boss him or toss him around. No pot-belly, baggy-eyed bully will boss him around. I don't give a damn what he does, as long as he does what he likes. He can sit in his tail or work on a rail with a hammer and spikes. He can ferry a boat on a river, or carry a pack on his back, or work up and down the streets of the town with a whip and a horse and a hack. He can haul a scow along the canal, run a cow around the corral, or maybe bark for a carousel. It takes talent to do that well. He might be the champion of heavyweights, or a fellow that sells you glue, or president of the United States. Yeah, that'd be all right. His mother would like that. But he wouldn't be president if he didn't want to be. Not Bill, my boy Bill. He'll be tall and as tough as a tree. Will he? Like a tree he'll grow, with his head held high and his feet planted firm on the ground. And you won't see nobody dare to try to boss him or toss him around. No fat-bottom, flabby-faced, pot-belly, baggy-eyed bastard will boss him around. And I'd be damned if he married his boss's daughter, a skinny-lipped virgin with lips like water, who gave him a kiss and called it a peck, and looked in his eyes to a lorgnette. Say, why am I taking on like this? My kid hasn't even been born yet. I can see him when he's 17 or so, and starting to go with a girl. I can give him lots of pointers, very sound, on the way to get round any girl. I can tell him. Wait a minute. What the? What if it's a girl? Oh no. Oh, Bill. Bill! What'll I do with her? I mean, what'll I do for her? I'm a bum with no money. You can have fun with a son, but you gotta be a father to a girl. It mightn't be so bad as that. A kid with ribbons in her hair, a kind of neat and petite little tin type of her mother. What a pair. My little girl, pink and white as peaches and cream, is she. My little girl is half again as bright as girls are meant to be. Dozens of boys pursue her, many a likely lad does what he can to woo her from her faithful dad. She has a few pink and white young fellas of 2 or 3, but my little girl gets hungry every night, and she comes home to me. My little girl. I gotta get ready before she comes. I gotta make certain that she won't be dragged up in slums with a lot of bums like me. She's gotta be sheltered and fed and dressed in the best that money can buy. I never knew how to get money, but I'll try. You gotta try. I'll go out and make it.
Oh, hello, it's me again. I've done a couple of these, you know. Right. So, Bonnie and Clyde, a famous duo. I don't know where I was going with that. stick to the script, Sean. Got really looking at it going, that's not what it says in the paper. Anyway, the membership for What We Did Next is great, and always keen on what they want us to do, and more importantly, what they want to be in. So, I don't know if any of you know, but the shows work that people like put forward what they would like to do, or what they would like the company to do. And actually what that really means is, I really want to be in this. Please do this. Please do this. And this show was no exception. It was the lovely Izzy Fells that put this show to us. Which is always great as well. People always give you like things to listen to that you go, wow, that's incredible. And I managed to procure a copy of the show and got to see the original Broadway version on a streaming website on YouTube. Other streaming websites are also available. And the technicality of the show really appealed to me. It used projection mapping throughout and a very sort of simple yet kind of complicated stage to move parts around. And I wanted to use projection mapping throughout the show, to give it that sense of historical accuracy throughout it of the original story, even though the show takes some liberties with the original story. And it was a massive technical challenge. I thought, yeah, I could direct that and do that, it'd be really easy. And it really wasn't. It was hugely, hugely difficult, a massive technical challenge and creatively exhausting. So much research went into the show, and then it poured through our wooden set. And all of that really was just the icing on the cake. It was the cast that produced a wonderful and gave really gutsy performances that genuinely give me goosebumps. Ooh, now. Professor. Honestly, like every time I listen back to the recording we have, like always gives me goosebumps. Yeah. I'll leave it to you guys.
Dream is done, it's over now, gotta get me out of here.
Don't say that, we're both in shock, we need to think this through. It ain't my fault, I had no choice, nothing I could do.
With that bullet you shot him and you shot me. Clyde, how stupid can you be?
It's too late to turn the clock back, it's too late for all of that. It's too late to wipe the slate clean, let's face what we're looking at. You got every right to be mad, but let's move on anyhow.
I get through this cause I'm leaving, not too late to turn back now. Thought I'd sign with MGM, I won't see that dream die.
I don't give a damn about MGM, now don't you say goodbye. How can you think of leaving? Get those thoughts out of your head. You ain't going nowhere.
Clyde, I'm that
Well, that bit's too dark, sorry, I've got rubbish at this. Assassins looks at the lives of 9 people throughout history who've attempted to assassinate the president. It's a non-linear book, which means that the assassins get to have conversations and meet throughout, so you get to see them interact with each other. We follow people like Lee Harvey Oswald and John Wilkes Booth, and lesser-known assassins as well. It was my first experience directing, thought I'd give it a go. I've choreographed and produced quite a few shows before that, and also my husband has directed a few shows, and I just thought, how hard could it be? But actually, to be fair, it turns out very. Anyway, so it was pretty much all I thought about for 6 months, and it's all consuming. So I moved to Liverpool years ago to study a history degree, so this musical played to my sort of the history geek within me, and I really enjoyed researching all of the characters and the historical side of it. Obviously I didn't do it all by myself, there was so much research and intricacies that went into it that I couldn't have done it on my own. So helped by Kate, who made some amazing props, and they were so accurate. The newspapers had the right headlines on for those days, and it was unbelievable, it was amazing. Jamie, who shared my vision for the set and brought it to life. And Sean works tirelessly on some more projection mapping, which he's got better at since Bonnie and Clyde. So it was more so that it was just a bit quicker to get up there. And I'm really proud of what we produced in the end. I couldn't have done it without Steph, who has loads of really good coloured pens, and she's really, really organised. And she's really good at pressing the right buttons at the right time to make all the projections and things happen. What's a musical without music? Mark and Josie worked day and night to pull this one off. It's another Sondheim. It was really, really hard. One of the most complex scores that we've had to tackle. It took a lot of hard work and patience from Josie, especially with the boys. No, to be fair, they had to work really, really hard because Sondheim wrote a barbershop piece, so it was never going to be easy for them. I really want to mention our wonderful band for that show, who brought the whole thing to life as well, and also Amy, who I think sat over there, but I can't quite see her, maybe she's over this side, who kept me in line, and she was our producer. It's the first time she's produced for us, and I don't think we've put her off because she's doing the next one. I loved watching the cast develop their characters. The 9 assassins are incredibly talented, bunch of multi-rolling ensemble members as well, and a couple of sort of narrator types thrown in. Everyone brought something really unique, and it made it such an exciting experience for me, and hopefully everybody else as well. The song you're about to see is the finale. It's where all the assassins are back one last time to remind the audience about their actions and how they were all in the spirit of the American dream.
Everybody
my name's Phil Burse. Thank you. You can always place that when I come in. I mentioned to my mum in early 2016 that I'd be directing a second show for What We Did Next, and I wanted to give the family a full 6 months' notice this time to make sure they'd all be available. My mother, obviously excited to invite all the distant relatives from far and wide, wanted to make sure that she knew the name of the show. I said, "You're in town?" "You're in town," she replied. "Uh-huh." She said, "I've not heard of that one before. Is it the sequel to On the Town?" I decided not to say any more. You're in Town's a comedy musical first premiered in 2001, satirising various things including the legal system, capitalism, and various other political ideals. It also parodies such shows as The Trap in the Opera, Cradle Rock, and Les Mis. My experience directing the much simpler title of show the year before was little preparation for the completely different challenge of directing a full show with a large cast in a professional performance space. Taking on this challenge provided me a steep learning curve, and one which I look back on with a sense of relief. Relief that I was surrounded by an incredibly professional production team that took away the burden of creating an entire show. For anyone who's not been involved with What We Did Next production, I had the benefit of a set designer, producer, an MD, a vocal coach, a choreographer, a technical director, a sound engineer, a lighting engineer, a props manager. As Sean mentioned before, or Jamie mentioned, sorry, lots of these people work as professionals, and it always amazes me that everyone involved in the company is a completely willing and dedicated volunteer. With an awesome production team behind us, the cast and I had the freedom to run wild. It'll make sense in a minute. And have great fun with the scripts and with the songs. It was a real privilege to work with such a talented and passionate cast of people who worked tirelessly as I pushed them ever harder at each rehearsal from the complete comfort of my director's chair. From my perspective, the Eurotown production was a shining example of What We Did Next talent and capability to deliver a fantastic production. I exclude myself in this when I say this was the finest production that I had the privilege to be involved with. Thank you again to the cast and the production team of Eurotown and for What We Did Next for allowing me to be a small part of its 10-year history. This is Run Freedom Run.
Run, freedom, run. Freedom, run away. My friends, you have to run, 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 run. Freedom, run away. That freedom sun will shine someday. Till then, you better run, 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 run. Freedom, run away. There's a trickle of sweat.
There's a trickle of sweat
within your ear.
within your ear.
But still, you gotta run, 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 run. Freedom, run away. Now don't you fret and never fear. Freedom's one, 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 one. Freedom, run away.
Freedom, run.
There's a great big glad bell on your tail.
Run, freedom, run.
Somebody's pulling his henchmen on your trail.
Run, freedom, run.
Oh, I'm simply laying out the facts. Great big glad bells making tracks. Ain't no time to relax. Run, freedom, run. Run, freedom, run. Freedom, run away.
Freedom, run away. Freedom, run away. My friends, you have to run, 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 run. Freedom, run away. Freedom, run away. That freedom sun will shine someday. Till then, you better run, freedom, run away.
Freedom, run away. Friends, you have to run, freedom, run away. That freedom sun shines someday. Till then, you better run, freedom, run. Hallelujah. With the wind in your hair, you run to freedom's glory. That freedom sun will shine all over your freedom story. I said freedom. I said freedom. I said freedom. Freedom, run.
We're very happy to be here. Thank you to Ruth and the rest of the committee for having us tonight.
So the Singers originally started as a glee club in 2010 with a small group of friends who got together to rehearse. When auditions took place for Spring Awakening, we found so many talented people who couldn't all fit into the cast. So in order to put this talent to good use, what we did next decided to run a choir alongside rehearsals.
And since then, the choir's gone from strength to strength. It's given people a chance to keep up with their singing in between shows without the commitment of being in a full-on show. We've done lots of things. We've done Christmas concerts. We performed in Liverpool one, Tickle the Ivories sessions, and yeah.
We sing a range of styles, from musical theatre to pop to that one classical song, Agnus Dei, that we will never sing again. we tried. And we perform several concerts a year, with our next date being the 20th of December at the Scandinavian Church. Clear your diaries.
We rehearse every single Tuesday, not Christmas Day, things like that, in Liverpool City Centre, and we always are looking for new members, so please come on down, bring your friends, your family, just all come and sing.
Today we are going to sing From Now On from The Greatest Showman, The Circle of Life from The Lion King, and Something to Love About today.
Thank you very much.
Champagne with kings and queens, the politicians praise my name.
depending on how well you think the show's going, you'll either be delighted or very disappointed to know that this is the last song before the interval. There'll be a 15-minute interval, so next door go through to get some drinks. But while the interval's happening, if you listen carefully, we'll be playing the What We Did Next radio play called The Cotton Update, which was written by Edward Beery and Nick Howard and recorded back in 2012. But before we let you go, the last song is taken from the musical Rent, which was the second song we did. The second musical show we did. After Company, it took us a long time to decide the next show. We were on a high after the success of our first show and wanted to build on the momentum, but we had no official method of pitching shows. Lots of names were bandied about, but nothing definite. Eventually, after nearly a year, it was narrowed down into the Woods or Rent. And Andy Godden, finally fed up with all of us faffing, made the executive decision to decide that he would produce Rent, and he asked me to direct it. Rent fitted the What We Did Next bill perfectly, a dark but fun musical with a cult following and catchy tunes. It's based on La Bohème and follows a group of young bohemian artists as they struggle to make connections in a world of poverty, suppression and AIDS-like stuff. It presented new challenges as we needed a much bigger cast, space and crew, and I'd certainly never directed anything of this scale. Fortunately, the reputation of the show created a buzz and brought people from many other theatre groups to come and audition, including many Liverpool students, a lot of whom became essential members of What We Did Next, until fame and fortune whisked them off into the professional world elsewhere. Rehearsals were great fun, but it wasn't until the day we had in costume to create the poster and some video footage that we truly bonded as a cast. A case of genuine American Mountain Dew with its illegally high caffeine content really helped. The buzz about the show grew as we came closer to opening night. We got into the Liverpool Echo newspaper, which was excellent, although it did mean that our leading man was suspended from his drama school, as he was told he wasn't allowed to be doing any external shows. It was kind of hard for him to deny it with his face across a double spread. Set building and tech was nearly overwhelming, but with Casper, our tech manager, we managed to get it sorted in time, even though he was programming the lights on the fly during the second half of the first night. It was a great success. The only noticeable mistake being the balcony railing falling off in the second night. Necessitating an early interval. Interesting enough, despite us having a very full audience every night, if you speak to anyone who saw the show, they all swear blind that they saw it on that particular night where the balcony fell down. But it was a really great show, and it really helped build the company, both in reputation, within the city, and our own confidence. We learned a lot of lessons, but proved that we're up for the big challenges of a big show. So viva la viva.
There is no future, there is no past. Thank God this moment's not the last. There's only us, there's only
just forget which one. So Pippin was my third show to direct. I'm not entirely sure if it was the second or the third one that was the inspiration for my wife to direct a show. I can only assume that my swan-like demeanour when directing these things, while kicking frantically underneath, I just always managed to hold my composure, which I imagine is why she thought it would be so easy. Anyway, back to Pippin. Love you, dear. Anyway, Pippin, this was the show that we became obsessed with at uni. There's a few of you in the audience where we nerded out over this show so much. We went to see a very, very young Alex Williams, who's in the house, I think. And his brother Rowan in their school production. Me, Gareth, and Matthew went, who are also in. Woo! We went and it absolutely floored us. This school production was bold, brave, performed so confidently and adeptly by a bunch of children, culminating in a Year 7 student wearing a suicide vest in front of a group of parents that had no idea what was going on, and the drama was the devil. And then we just started watching clips of Ben Vereen in the original Broadway version, which was astounding. I genuinely think it is one of the best musicals ever written, and although I'm a little biased, it's set in the court of Charlemagne in 800 AD, and the abstract nature of it is a show within a show, or a show in a show in Pippin's head, or it's in all of our heads, or it's everywhere, I don't even know, and I often change my opinion on it. It's a show that always keeps giving, and I always try and find something new in it. And sometimes I think I understand Pippin more, and then sometimes less. It comes and goes. The Broadway revival had seen the show become a full-blown circus with Bettina Miller as leading player, which was astounding. Thank you, YouTube, again. But I always kept coming back to this school version. It had simplicity that we also wanted to use. Again, you know, like kind of scaled down. But simplicity is the focus. We had 9 boxes that moved around the stage that represented the King's Court. Players in outlandish makeup and all wearing black to be dressed up and down as required. And a leading player to lead it in all of its splendour and glory. This is Glory from the show Pippin.
darkest tower, shout it out. In the darkest hour, Charlemagne, you lead us all to power. The gates of heaven await, thrown wide by Charles the Great. We follow him through by serving his state. Glory, 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 glory.
Hello, my name's Kate Rugen and I directed Into the Woods, and it was back in 2011, following the success of our first few shows, that I found myself with a sudden desire to be on the other side of the fence and really fancied having a go at directing. I'd never directed anything before, so where better to start than full-scale Sondheim. I'd loved Into the Woods ever since buying the soundtrack in a Borders in Kentucky. Actually, it was a Borders in Massachusetts on a family holiday when I was 17, but that's a bit less stagey. I think I started grooming people to make it our next play at the after show of Spring Awakening, and clearly it worked. The team was gathered, Zoe to produce, Maddie to MD. There were meetings, which involved a lot of baked camembert and wine. The show developed through a series of ideas, from a set made entirely of recycled newspaper and monochrome costumes, through to using blocks for a movable set, similar to what eventually was done in Pippin, and that idea was rejected for being too hard, which just goes to show how much we've improved. Once we'd come up with some really good ideas, I left the country. As it turns out, trying to direct a musical in Liverpool from Uganda is actually quite hard. I did, however, buy a book called How to Direct a Play, which I took with me and never read, and the script, which I did. I spent time blocking scenes and having Skype meetings with Zoe and Maddie, and generally thinking a lot about the show, until I finally came home and straight into auditions, literally straight, like the next day. That was one of the hardest parts, having to turn away some great people, but equally we were introduced to some new and incredible talent, including that of Jenny, who you're about to hear. Rehearsals began in the actual woods, because that's a really good place for a read-through. Following that, we rehearsed a lot in a church because it was free. And I think most people's memory of that period in our lives is of being bitterly, miserably cold. I am sure it must have done something really positive to the cast though, because the performances that came out were full of warmth and just perfect. The finished show was wonderful, and it remains one of the things I've enjoyed doing most in my life, and something I'm hugely proud of. The song Jenny is about to sing for you is The Last Midnight, a song which comes towards the end of the show and which is about an unravelling of the fairy tales, of the things we think are true, and of the witch herself. It's a reminder that there are consequences to our actions, and that every story can be viewed from a different angle, which might be less flattering. I'm really looking forward to hearing Jenny sing again, and I hope you enjoy it too.
It's the last one you can blame. Fine, if that's the thing you enjoy, placing the blame. If that's the aim, give me the blame. Just give me the boy. No, you're so nice. You're not good, you're not bad, you're just nice. I'm not good, I'm not nice, I'm just right. I'm the witch, you're the world. I'm the hitch, I'm what no one believes. I'm the witch, you're all liars and thieves, like his father, like his son will be too. Oh, why bother? You'll just do as you do. It's the last midnight, so goodbye. Oh, coming at you first midnight. Soon you'll see the sky fall. Here you want a beam, have another beam. Beans were made for making you rich. Here you want some more. Listen to the roar. Last midnight, it's the last curse. Now before it's past midnight, I'm leaving you my last curse. I'm leaving you alone. You can tend the garden, it's yours, separate and alone. Everybody down on all fours. Oh, I wonder when. Lost the beans again. Punish me the way you did then. Give me claws and a hunch just away from this bunch and the gloom and the doom and the boom. Cringe!
Very well, thank you very much, Jenny. Next up, we're going to be singing something from Spring Awakening. So, 2011 was a really, really busy year for what we did next. We put on 5 productions, including Into the Woods, which Kate's already spoken about, as well as a new piece of writing that I spoke about earlier called Any Other Name, and that was written by one of our members, Liz Ford, who dearly wishes she could be here tonight, but sadly can't be, she's in another play. But the year kicked off with Spring Awakening. It was our first performance in the Unity Theatre, which subsequently became a regular venue for our productions. Spring Awakening is based on the 19th century play of the same name and remains a controversial musical. Teenage friends discover their sexuality and struggle with their emerging adult responsibilities and loss of childhood innocence. It's kind of heavy, yeah? So in a moment, Megan and Jason will be performing Don't Do Sadness, a song which reflects this change in life perfectly and occurs at a turning point in the script. When we performed it, we certainly didn't shy away from the difficult themes in the show, and it proved too much for some of the audience members who actually got up, left at the interval, and then didn't come back again. But then again, I suppose watching 2 people simulate sex on stage isn't everyone's cup of tea, is it? Despite this, we had a sell-out run, and my lasting memories of an awesome punk-inspired choreography by Dominique, the impressive, yet sometimes very fragile and flammable set. Less said about that, the better. With the influx of brand new members who helped us with this successful production. My one regret, though, is that Sean, who was the producer, didn't let me have a giant, organic-looking climbing frame in the middle of the stage. But I suppose there's always next time. Anyway, without further ado, can I introduce Megan as Ilse and Jason as Moritz. Thank you.
Always sweet to be a little butterfly, just swinging over things and nothing deep inside, nothing going wild in you, you know, slowing by the riverside, oh, floating high and blue, or maybe cool to be a little summer wind, like once through everything and then away again, with a taste of
Spring and summer, every other day. Blue wind gets so sad, blowing through the thick corn with bales of hay to the open books in the grass. Spring and summer. Sure, when it's autumn, the wind always wants to creep up and haunt you. Whistling, it's got you. With its heartache, with its sorrow, winter wind sings and it cries. Spring and summer, every other day. Blue wind gets so pained, blowing through the thick corn, through the bales of hay, with the sudden drifts of the rain. Spring and summer.
Or maybe I could be some kind of laundry line. Lay their things on me, and I will swing them dry. It's a wave in the sun through the afternoon, and then see they come to set you free beneath the rising moon. You know, I don't do
Every other day.
not even a little bit. Just don't need it in my life. Don't want it hard. I don't do
Every other day.
Hey, after my time, on it all, it blows my mind. I don't do sadness, slowing last. Don't do sadness, just don't summer.
I'm having a lovely evening. My name's Ellen. When I found out that all the directors of the shows needed to stand up here on stage and talk about their respective shows, I was very nervous. I'm not a writer, and many of my friends here tonight are, and can talk intelligibly ad nauseum about the creative process and their vision for the show. If I'm really honest, why did I choose to direct the last 5 years? Well, it's because I'm an absolutely massive musical theatre geek, and I love this show. Everything about this show appealed to me. A hopeless romantic to start with, but I also loved the comedy entwined in the realistic and modern love story. Many of the membership have been performing the songs in open mic sessions for ages, and it felt right that what we did next, to always lead the way in the new musical theatre in Liverpool, should take the lead on such an exciting and fresh show. Jason Robert Brown's insane score was no trouble for the immensely talented Robin, and we really co-directed Nat and Adrian, who can't be with us here tonight, through the rehearsal period. Having never directed before, and I never have since, I'm not really sure what that says about the show. There's so many challenges in directing such a small production with just 2 cast members. These included, but are not limited to, managing the finances of a small show, so thank you, Sean. There was no dialogue in the show, allowing sort of the intersecting and opposite timelines explaining themselves through the songs, and the help of a ginormous working mechanical clock at the back of the stage as well. Clock, sorry. Really well, and it felt so wonderful to be part of such a permanent, fresh and exciting show. Having the chance to use a space like the Casimir makes you rest in peace, and getting the chance to hold rehearsals alongside a pair of absolutely belting singers and a wizard on the keys, I really couldn't ask for anything more in my directorial debut. I mentioned that the songs are often performed in open mic nights, and as a tribute to all that have sung a song from the show over the last 10 years, here are the ladies of What We Did Next to sing their Summer in Ohio for you tonight.
I could have a mansion on a hill. I could lease a villa in Seville, but it wouldn't be as nice as a summer in Ohio with a gay midget named Carl playing Tavia and Porky. I could run to Paris after dark, take a carriage ride through Central Park, but it wouldn't be as nice as a summer in Ohio, where I'm sharing a room with a former stripper and her snake, Wayne. I could have a satchel full of dollar bills, a cure for all the nation's ills, pills to make a lion live. I could be in line to be the British Queen, look like I was 17. Still, I'm certain I prefer to be going slowly, Betty, 40 miles east of Cincinnati. I could shove an ice pick in my eye. I could eat some fish from last July, but it wouldn't be as awful as a summer in Ohio without cable, hot water, Vietnamese food, or you. I saw your book had a Borders in Kentucky under a sign that said new and recommended. I stole a look at your picture on the inside sleeve, and then I couldn't leave. Richard, who was with me, got uncharacteristically quiet, and he said, all things considered, I guess you don't have to buy it. So I smile like Mona Lisa, and I lay my visa down. He wants me, but he ain't gonna get me. I've been my guiding light. I tell the stars each night, look at me, look at him. Son of a bitch, I guess I'm doing something right. I finally got something right. No, it's not Nirvana, but it's on the way. I pray Anita at the Manson Bay, and I get on my knees and pray I can stay in my next bio. I'm never gonna go back to Ohio. I could chew on tinfoil for a spell. I could get a root canal in hell, but it wouldn't be as swell as this summer is gonna be. 'Cause the torture is just exquisite while I'm waiting for you to visit. So hurry up, schmuck, get unstuck and get on the seat. Love the midgets, the stripper, Wayne the snake, and Mrs. Jamie Wallenstein. That's me. So, as you've seen and heard tonight, and no doubt remember from seeing our shows, we've had an absolute blast over the years. We've welcomed people with open arms, and we've watched others fly the nest. We've watched people graduate, start careers, on and off stage, and have children and achieve many other great things.
We've become an ever-expanding family, and this company is one of the reasons that lots of us chose to stay in Liverpool. Unfortunately, there have been some less happy times over the past decade too. We're saddened by the passing of some of our peers, whom several of our founding members worked closely with on productions throughout the university years. Rich Till, who skillfully played piano at some of our first open mic nights, Mike Platts, and Essie Omeredji. They were all brilliant performers, musicians and friends, and they are sorely missed. And we couldn't even contemplate tonight without mentioning our most wonderful friend, Andy Godden. Lots of us met him at the Liverpool University Student Theatre Days in 2006, and he was with What We Did Next right from the start. He was our first treasurer. It's alright, I'll pull myself together. He was our first treasurer, and Market Square. And he produced Company and Rent before taking to the stage himself in Into the Woods, Fat Boy, Carousel, and Bonnie and Clyde. Almost always playing someone police-related for some reason. He also sang in his fair share of What We Did Next concerts as one of our trusty basses. He passed away this summer, and we're all absolutely gutted to lose the most loyal and kind-hearted member of our company and dear friend to all of us. He was proud of what we'd started and what we were doing, and I know tonight he'd have been grinning from ear to ear. I asked a couple of people if they thought it was okay to talk about him tonight, and the response I got was, I think he'd be pretty pissed off if he didn't get a mention. So I thought I'd take the opportunity to remind you of a couple of AG-related anecdotes. The time he forgot to put his boots on for the opening of Fat Boy goes down in history. His feet were hot backstage, and he'd always delay putting on his cowboy boots for as long as possible. The tactic completely backfired on one of the show nights because he totally forgot, and he very professionally powered through his lines in his socks. Of course, there are also, as alluded to by Sean earlier, the many, many times he accidentally on purpose be half an hour late to every single dance rehearsal when Dom was our choreographer. So he could avoid the technical and gruelling corner work she'd make us do. Galloping and leaping was never his forte, but he made up for it in so many other ways. And we'll never forget how his house became our home when we were rehearsing Rent, and remained that way pretty much until he moved out of the famous bunker. If anybody's got a drink, cheers to AG. Right, okay. Now I've read, now I have to read out some words to introduce our next song. As you can see, I am not a man called Mark. He couldn't be here tonight because his wife may or may not currently be giving birth, and it was a risk he wasn't willing to take. So, this was given to me by Mark. Oh, hang on. I now want to read something from possibly the most talented individual I've ever had the pleasure of working with, Mark Hall. I would like to stress that this is just the preamble to what Mark has written for me to read, and I have not actually started reading his words yet. He definitely didn't write this bit where I point out yet again how utterly incredible and amazing he is. Anyway, without further ado, here are the words of the great man himself. Many of the pieces tonight were picked by directors with an intimate knowledge of musical theatre, people who've sifted through their collections and picked a musical that they love, has a profound message, or speaks to them on a personal level. I picked Elegies for Angels, Punks and Raging Queens because Jamie Barfield told me to. In his defence, given my limited musical theatre knowledge, if he hadn't recommended it, I would probably have tried to set some Chekhov to music, and given the only song I can play is Greensleeves, the score wouldn't have had much variation. While I sat down with the book, it was easy to see why Jamie had recommended it. What an exciting project Elegies would turn out to be. Aside from having the longest title ever, it also has one of the largest casts we've ever had to squeeze into a single stage, with just shy of 40 actors. It was a joy to work with all of them, and I'd like to think this piece helped What We Did Next expand into the creativity of the city, tapping into pools of talent in Liverpool that might otherwise have stayed hidden. With a group varied enough to include students, professionals, school children, comedians, drag queens and full-time actors, the constantly impressive thing was how well everybody got on. It really felt like the show became a community rather than a piece of theatre. And also, we performed in a pole dancing studio. Theatre, eh? I hope no one feels shortchanged that I'm not going to mention everyone involved as in the original project, because the list is almost endless and my memory is not the best, as Zoe will testify to constantly having to remind Mark of everything throughout the production as a producer. Just know that I was and still am hugely grateful to everyone who played a part in getting Elegies to the pole dancing studio stage, and I have nothing but fond memories of it all, including the fretful evenings in rehearsals, working out how to create the city of New York using nothing but 6 white chairs. Strip back. The message behind Elegies is a complex one, set in 1980s New York with a focus on the AIDS epidemic of that period. Plenty of tears are shed throughout. The piece was originally inspired by the Names Memorial Quilt, a sprawling patchwork of tapestry commemorating individuals who died from AIDS-related illnesses, their passions, their humour, their personalities. So while grief is an ongoing theme, the human capacity for joy and life is explored throughout. Throughout the show, we were proud to raise money for Liverpool's HIV charity Stay Here House. We're fortunate that treatment for HIV has progressed hugely since the 1980s, and most people diagnosed today live a normal life with the right treatment. But the message from Elegies of humanity in the face of tragedy are just as relevant today as they were in 1980. One of the songs that captures this humanity best is the one we're presenting tonight. It was one of the songs that didn't require us to get all 40 actors back, so here are the extremely talented Ellen and Rachel with Celebrate.
If we can learn any lesson from these acres of grief, it's to live for what we have now. If there's a path to comfort or a road to relief, I know you take me there somehow. Finding this friendship has restored my belief in the joy that fate will allow. So let's grab the moment, no reason to wait, and let's take a moment to celebrate, celebrate the winter turns to spring. Celebrate, celebrate the light the rain can bring. Appreciate the seasons that we share. Celebrate each moment, cause each one with you is rare. Now listen to this. We have weathered the storm, we have met the test. We have seen the worst, we have known the best. Found great friends to share the weight. Let's take this moment to celebrate. Celebrate, celebrate that morning follows night. Celebrate, celebrate that wounded birds take flight. Commemorate the love of those who've gone. Celebrate each moment and that life is going on. Celebrate, celebrate that winter turns to spring. Celebrate, celebrate the life the rain can bring. Appreciate, appreciate the seasons that we share. Celebrate with music, celebrate with laughter. Celebrate each moment. Celebrate, 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 celebrate.
Hello, like Zoe. Oh, this one. It's fine. I've got a loud voice. Like Zoe, I'm also not a man called Chris. My name's Megan. And in 2016, Chris Brocklesby and myself became members of a production team for What We Did Next for the very first time. Myself as a producer and Chris as a director, but he couldn't be here tonight, so he asked me to say a few words on his behalf, and I have actually written these. So we staged the musical Three Sides. It's a very small musical about a love triangle that Chris and his husband Nick had actually seen in London, and our production was the first time that it had been performed in the Northwest. It was also its premiere as an amateur production. And 3 was the magic number for this show. We had 3 members of the production team, including Jonas, we had 3 members of a technical team, and we had 3 members of our cast who'll be out shortly. In hindsight, we probably could have asked a few more people to help us. But thanks to those who did lend a hand, particularly my parents, who had managed to convince that building and delivering set was a much better way to spend their retirement rather than, you know, going on holiday. One of the best things, though, about being involved in such a small team was getting to see up close just how incredibly talented our friends are. Sean, Frankie and Tom had a huge challenge ahead of them because there was no original cast recording to listen to, there were no clips of the original production on YouTube or at the Tony Awards. They were coming at this cold and blind. But they grabbed it with both hands and they put on an incredible show. And I know that Chris and I both are still incredibly proud of what they achieved. The song they're about to perform for you is their Meet Cute in the show. It's the first time that they meet in this love triangle, sparks begin to fly. And Grant Holding, who wrote the music for this show, he can write a good song, but he sure as hell can't name them. This is a song about 3 people going down in a lift called 3 People Going Down. The cast of 3 sides.
It's been a long day. It's been a long and boring day at the studio. Because the music's uninspiring and you've got nothing left to give. And it's the one day, it's the only day that you need to leave early. The session's overrun because the bassline's lost its groove. 2 hours ago you lost the will to live. So the last thing that you want is to be waiting for this lift, impatiently pressing the button every 5 seconds. No, the last thing that you need is for your mind to drift away from your father to this woman dressed from head to toe in leather. It's been a long day. It's been a long, frustrating day in the office. When all you see before you is a string of numbers stretching out forever. And Mr. Carson's on your back and you're a nervous wreck again. He's breathing down your neck again, demanding those calculations. I got lost in the New Year's celebrations. Now the only thing you want to get out the building quick, so you find yourself pressing the button every 5 seconds. No, the only thing you want is for this biker chick to notice you looking. Won't she notice me looking? Notice you smiling. Oh, notice it smiling. They're waiting together. Waiting together to go down. Waiting for a lift with one remarkable woman dressed from head to toe in leather. Me and her. It's been a long day. It's been a long day. But it's the end of your shift. And as you wait for the lift, you know so the last thing that you want, not unattractive, when you'd rather be pressing her buttons. Don't even think about pressing her buttons. Those retro 70s. Why doesn't he take the stairs? Someone sharing you with a pinch-like frown. After you, come on boys, going down.
Hello again. I joined What We Did Next in January 2014 to perform alongside many of the very talented people we have seen and heard from already this evening in what was to be my first show with the company, Carousel. It was shortly after the conclusion of our run at the Unity Theatre that the now famous post-show blues started to kick in. As a new member of the company, I was intrigued to learn that What We Did Next frequently does a smaller show in the autumn months when a suitable idea is pitched and signed off for by the committee. During Carousel, I may have mumbled to a few people that I might one day look to take up the opportunity to direct a What We Did Next show myself. However, I was immediately comforted by the fact that there was so much wonderful talent already in the company that it may be some time before I was called upon. That time came sooner than expected, and in the summer of 2015, about a month later, I was asked by the committee if I would direct a little-known musical called Title of Show. For those of you who have not seen the show, Title of Show is a 1.5-hour production about two struggling writers, Jeff and Hunter, along with their two good friends, Heidi and Susan, as they navigate their way through the process of creating a new musical theatre show for a festival. The ever so meta twist in the tale is the show that is performed is actually the final show that they create for the festival. Don't worry, it'll make no sense anyway. We ran the show for 3 nights at the Lantern Theatre here in Liverpool and sold out for all 3 shows. Aside from a minor technical hitch on the last night, when the lights went down completely in the final run of the finale of the show, the whole production was a great success for the company. My lasting memories of the show are a great sense of camaraderie and humour, as we explored every angle of what was sometimes a challenging and surreal text to work with. A cast and production team who exemplified professionalism, commitment, and a dedication to bringing this wonderful show to life. And most of all, a sense of family, and the shared love for the project and for each other. For those of you who were involved in Title of Show on and off stage, I want to pass on my sincere thanks and gratitude for making the process so enjoyable and for making my first outing as a director seem so easy. The song you're about to see now is called Die Vampire Die, and don't worry, you won't understand a word of it anyway.
There are some people in the world who say that writing stories or composing music or dancing sparkly dances is easy for them. Nothing interferes with their ability to create. While I celebrate their creative freedom, a little part of me wants to punch those motherfuckers in the teeth. This song, I sing this song for you guys and for all the rest of us. Help me out, y'all.
We'll sing back up.
You have a story to tell, a novel you keep in a drawer.
Old sock drawer.
You have a painting to paint, but you're lazy like an old French whore.
Je suis whore.
You have a movie you make, shrinking things you can make, but you best grab a steak, cause in Sweet the Vampires, in Creep the Vampires, in Vampires filling you with doubt, insecurity, doubt, what your heart should be in. Creep the Vampires, Die Vampire. You sketched that turtle you saw in an ad on late night cable TV.
Tippy turtle.
But your 4th grade teacher said you can't draw. Vampires won't let you be.
Fuck you, Miss Johnson. Word.
And when they come in like hell, see those bats in your belfry, then call on Van Helsing in swoosh, in whoosh, filling you with thoughts of feelings of they'll make you die vampire.
There are so many vampires, inside, outside, and nationwide. It helps to recognize them with this vampire hunting guide.
Listen closely, my children. A vampire is any person or thought or feeling that stands between you and your creative self-expression, but they can assume many seductive forms. Here are just a few of them.
Tell us, Susan.
First up are your pygmy vampires. They'll swarm around you like gnats and say things like,
You went to state school.
You sound weird.
Good,
Answer down.
did it before you and better than you. Or they might say that you cannot sing good enough to be in a musical. Or they might say,
your song is repetitive, your song makes me tired. Your song is repetitive, and it doesn't rhyme.
To keep that song from you, would you tell them, die, vampire, die? Brothers and sisters, next up is the air freshener vampire. She might look like a precious moment's angel, with a can of music in its tiny ceramic hand. But don't be fooled. If it smells something unpleasant in what you're creating, it'll urge you to with some pine fresh smell-ups. The air freshener vampire doesn't want you to write about
bad language, love,
or blowjobs. It wants you to clean it up and clean it out, which will leave your work toothless, gutless, and crotchless. But you'll be left with 2 tight paragraphs on kittens that your meemaw would be so proud of. You look at that air freshener vampire in her doe-eyed, sweet-cheeked, judgy fucking face. You say,
Morte, Lomir, Morte.
The last vampire is the mother of all vampires, and that is the vampire of despair. It'll wake you up at 4 a.m. to say things like,
Nobody cares what you think.
You look like a fool.
No matter how hard you try, you'll never be good enough.
why is it if a stranger came up to me on the subway platform and said these things, I'd think he was a fucking asshole. But when the vampire inside my head says it, it's the voice of reason.
You have a story to tell, pull your novel out of that soft drawer.
You have a pain and the pain is painted and the pain some more.
Oh, maybe you must escape, then grab it by the nape of its neck by the trachea. Fucking break in your arms, I'm mistaken, yet there's no mistaking. Now you're shaking, bacon. Die, vampire. I said die, vampire. I said now die, vampire, die. And fly the vampire's home, fly the vampire's head, die the vampire's filling you with life, creativity, home, that your art should be out. Go the vampires, die, vampire, die, vampire, die, vampire, die.
Good evening. My name's Andy Walker, and in June 2013 I directed a production of Bat Boy the Musical at the Unity Theatre. After performing in Rent and Elegies, two very beautiful and profound musicals, about 8, I wanted to bring a show to what we did next that was a little bit quirky, a little bit silly, and a whole heap of fun. I started scouring through musical comedies and came across a lesser-known show scored by Lawrence O'Keefe, Bat Boy. I'd only heard the soundtrack once, and not knowing a lot about it, I saw a production done by a musical theatre school in Edinburgh. I quickly fell in love with the story of a half-human, half-bat child from a town many miles to the south. The show wasn't a massive hit on Broadway. Unfortunately, timing wasn't right for it. 9/11 occurred just as Bat Boy was being transferred, and the climate of fear in the US meant that nobody wanted to see a show about accepting somebody despite their differences, and seeing past what was on the surface and into somebody's heart to know the true measure of that person. The 2 numbers you hear tonight will demonstrate the core value of that show. Everyone can be loved, and everyone has a place here, despite our flaws or weird personalities. I said when I pitched the show that it was a modern retelling of Beauty and the Beast, with a vampire boy with fangs and large ears. Oh, and a few murders here and there, and a smattering of incest, and an interspecies orgy. Oh, and everyone dies. Basically it's how Twilight should have ended. The cast were absolutely unbelievable. An amazingly talented chorus sang and danced their hearts out every night. And I had a set of leads that included Triple Threat Sarah and Jack, whose physical transformations brought Edgar the Batboy alive in ways that I couldn't imagine. I even got to cast Andy Godden in as a cantankerous sheriff, a part that he had never played in any other show, except for all the other shows. Andy, I swear we didn't typecast you, but you were just so good at playing a grumpy lawman that I actually don't know who will get to do it next time. I'm indebted to Sean, Jamie, Jonas, who had a live band upstairs that we piped the music into the theatre live on the night. Massive challenge, technically. Dom for trying to get me to have a core, even though I wasn't even on the show. And for everybody who's involved for helping my vision come to life. This show will always live inside my heart with a joyful noise.
It's okay, I'm still here. Your secret's out, but don't fear. 'Cause I don't care what people say. Once I thought you were weird, but soon my doubts disappeared. I think you're normaler than they. Now you're scared, you're in need. Clearly someone has to bleed. I'll repay all you gave. I will give you what you crave. Let me prove I love you. Let me become part of you. I see no better way to start. Now I can live inside your heart.
Don't know what you're
Yes,
saying.
I do.
I want no home, forget
It's for
me.
you.
I'll hurt you, I'm not
No, I
playing.
knew that
I want
when
you,
they-
please don't let me go.
I want you, please, yes.
No, it's too bizarre, just go.
I'm not afraid, it's no disease, it's who you are.
Murders everything I touch. A screaming fire will fill you. You'll beg me, please, to kill you. I cannot let you be my cross. Oh God, I feel my hunger grow. Go now, go home, forget me.
No. Such a lovely boy. Look at what you've done to me. Woke me up and set me free. So look at me. Such a lovely boy. Soon you will be mine at last. And I'll be fine. I hear real fast. So look at me. Look at me.
Don't know what you're saying.
Shut up, that's it, I'm staying. I will shield you from harm.
Don't spend your life on my arm. I see no better way to start.
Let me prove I love you. Let me become part of you.
console girl.
Prodigal son has come in from the cold. So like the prophets were told in the days of make a joyful noise, my soul. Make a joyful noise, my soul. The lion will lie down with the lamb on that bright new day. Soft walking hand with Abraham. He will show the way. Cry to the sky, Jesus, here I am. Make a joyful noise, my soul. Make a joyful noise, my soul. Make some noise, make some noise, make some noise, make some noise. Hallelujah, my soul is whole. Sing it loud, sing it all night long. Make a joyful noise, a joyful noise, my soul. My soul. Praise God, the sheep has returned to the fold. The prodigal son has come in from the cold. So like the prophets were told in the days of old, make a joyful noise, my soul. Make some noise, make some noise, make some noise. My soul is hoping it now. Sing it all night long. Make a joyful noise, my soul. A joyful noise, my soul. A
Got me again. Losing my voice now. Okay, so that's almost your lot. Woo! Oh, sounds more sad. I'd like to thank all of the performers who've done a brilliant job, including our soloist, chorus, and of course the What We Did Next singers, MD'd by Lily and Mika. Thank you to our brilliant band and musical directors, Mark and Josie, as well. Thank you to the whole of the What We Did Next committee, who've all had their part to play in getting this show on stage tonight. But our biggest round of applause must go to Ruth, who has lived and breathed this project over the last few months, and she's been our absolute star producer. Thank you to the Royal Court for hosting us tonight. I think you'll all agree it's an absolutely lovely venue.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll be back. And thank you to John Maxwell for filming us as well. I think he's over there somewhere. But also, it's a very special day for John. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear John. Happy birthday to you. Thank you. I'm sure there were other things you would rather have done on your birthday, so thank you very much. Finally, I'd like to thank you, our audience, not only for being here tonight, but for supporting us over the past 10 years. Some of you were founding members yourselves, and we wouldn't be here without your dedication, positivity and spirit. We've come a long way from the time Matthew had to rewire the Casimir and Show Week, and we hope you've enjoyed the many productions and concerts we've brought you so far, and we hope you come and see our next one.
Yay.
Segue to... Yay. Plug. We're holding auditions for our next production, Be More Chill, on Thursday the 10th and Friday the 11th of January. Please follow us on social media or join our email list if you're interested in auditioning. We're very excited about Be More Chill. It's a small show with a really big cult following, and it's currently getting ready for its Broadway transfer. We're excited to be presenting the first production of it in the Northwest in May next year in a new theatre on Hope Street. I've also got one more plug, sorry. We have one of our Liverpool famous musical theatre open mic nights next Friday, so that's the Friday the 23rd of November. Everybody's welcome, whether you want to come and sing your favourite show tune or whether you want to sit and watch and drink a beer while everyone else sings. So please come on down. Venue 81 Renshaw? It's in 81 Renshaw Street. Didn't write that down. So please come along to that as well. If anybody in here isn't a member of the company, you're few and far between, and if you want to know more, please come and chat to one of us at the bar. I hope you can all stay for a drink. The bar upstairs will be open for business after the show until midnight, so we hope to see you there. So, one last thing remains before we sing our finale. I'd like to invite two of our founding members to the stage, Jamie and Sean. Yeah! 10 years ago, when all of this was just a seed of an idea, you both made a flippant promise over a pint. Yeah. It seemed funny and inconsequential at the time. If the company's still going in 10 years, we should get the logo as a tattoo. So last week, I booked them an appointment at Gentleman George's Tattoo Parlour on Castle Street, another plug, and here we have it. Show me! I can neither confirm nor deny whether I also got inked, a lady never tells. I would now like to invite our cast to the stage to sing our final piece. How could we possibly get through tonight without singing a song that means so much to all of us?
Thank you.